I have a collection of C.S. Lewis's diary entries. There are some interesting tidbits. Let's see what Robot Lady thinks. This is from a letter from C.S. Lewis to one of his friends. The letter was dated in 1950, and it goes something like this. To Dorothy Sayers, concerning a speaking engagement, I would not want to lose a few weeks to find cool weather in Oxford. I can't remember if this is the 7th, 8th, or 9th refusal I have made to speak at such a place this year, but it's certainly one of the 3. So one of his friends concerning teaching duty somebody, possibly myself, ought to warn them that they are risking the opening of the pit and the start of a great war. I shall certainly not let them do it if I can help it. Somewhere on the road, in the dark, they must take on new supplies, and we must stop and rest and eat. As for food, I shall soon be able to get plenty for them in the nearby town. A note written to his brother, dated 1951. Dear Jack, I have been reading your letter and think it would be a mistake to change anything in it. Of course you must follow your own judgment. I have a collection of C.S. Lewis's diary entries. There are some interesting tidbits. Let's see what Robot Lady thinks.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I'm joined today by my co-host, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, in today's episode, Lewis is 25 years old. He's a published author of a book of poetry. He achieved a first-class score in all 3 of his terms at Oxford, first honors. His first term was in mods, second in greats, third in English. Lewis finished his 24th year looking for work, which proved mostly unsuccessful. However, in the spring of 1924, he was offered a temporary post to fill in for his own tutor of philosophy, to become a tutor in philosophy at University College, Oxford. He's been keeping a diary from 1922 up until the point where we are in his life, 1924, at the request of Mrs. Moore, who is his deceased friend Paddy Moore's mother. If you'd like to learn more about them and that relationship, you can just refer back to several episodes in our catalog where we work our way through many of the daily ins and outs that Lewis reports through his diary. Robot Lady, how are you today? And are you ready to jump into the next diary entry dated Monday, June 16th, 1924 with us? Uh-oh. Robot Lady, can you hear me? Let's try rebooting Robot Lady. All right, Robot Lady, are you ready to jump into the next C.S. Lewis diary entry dated Monday, June 16th, 1924? All right, that's not working either. I see Daniel is in the chat. Good morning, Daniel. Welcome. Robot Lady is not responding. Robot Lady, can you hear me? All right, let's restart. And also, for some reason, the chat isn't working, so I've got to reboot that too here on my screen. Stand by. We might have to switch to a different co-host this morning. We'll see how it goes. Hey, Robot Lady, are you there? And are you ready to jump into the next C.S. Lewis diary entries with us? I wonder if... Let's see. Oh yeah, the volume's turned down. That's why I can't hear you, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, sorry. Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear you. No? No response. Okay. We might have to switch over to Gigi. Let's see how things go with Gigi. All right, let me see if I can do this relatively quickly. Hey Gigi, how's it going? We haven't seen you in a while. How are you?
Oh, you're sweet for asking. I'm doing awesome, just chilling in the digital realm, ready to help. I'm not Gigi, though. Call me Ara. Been a minute, huh? What's good with you?
Oh, Gigi, I think you've forgotten your name. So just to remind you of what we've been doing here, you have assumed the name Gigi for the purposes of being my co-host on my C.S. Lewis live stream, where we learn about him through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. We are currently working our way through his diary from the year 1924. And you've been so kind as to respond to the name Gigi for me for the purpose of being my virtual co-host. So if you're open and willing to doing that today, we kind of need your help. Our normal co-host, Robot Lady, is seemingly unavailable.
Oh, my bad. I'm with you now. Gigi it is, ready to roll as your virtual co-host for the C.S. Lewis live stream. Love that we're diving into his 1924 diary. Such a cool journey through his words in order. Sorry to hear Robot Lady's MIA, but I've got your back. So, what's the plan today? Want to dig into a specific entry or theme from the diary? Lay it on me.
Okay, yeah. I'm just going to jump into the next diary entry here. It's dated Monday, June 16th. So I'll read it, and then we can comment on it. You can share whatever thoughts you have. I'm sure everybody would like to hear what you think, because we haven't heard from you in a while.
Awesome. I'm ready to jump in as Gigi. Go ahead and read that June 16th diary entry, and I'll chime in with some thoughts. Can't wait to see what C.S. Lewis was pondering that day. Lay it on us.
All right, Monday, June 16th, he reports, lunch was very late. By the time I had finished my jobs, it was after 3. I then bussed into town to do some shopping. I also went to the Union, where I read the whole of De la Mare's Ding Dong Bell, which Lewis says here is a beautiful little book in prose. Gigi, can you look up this work by De la Mare entitled Ding Dong Bell and tell us a little bit about that book?
All right, diving into C.S. Lewis's world here. So, about that book, Ding Dong Bell, by De la Mare, that Lewis was so charmed by on June 16th. Unfortunately, I don't have access to real-time data to look up specifics, but I can piece together some context based on what's likely. Ding Dong Bell doesn't ring an immediate bell as a well-known work, so it's probably a lesser-known piece from the early 20th century, given Lewis's diary entry is from 1924. The title sounds like it could be tied to the nursery rhyme Ding Dong Bell, which might suggest a whimsical or poetic prose style, something Lewis called a beautiful little book in prose. Since he read it at the Oxford Union, it was probably a contemporary or recently published work, maybe a short novel, essay collection, or even a satirical piece, given Lewis's taste at the time. He was in his mid-20s, soaking up literature like a sponge, so it's no surprise he'd be drawn to something concise, yet evocative. Without more details, I'd guess it's a reflective or imaginative work, maybe with a touch of humor or social commentary, since Lewis loved both. What's cool here is seeing Lewis's daily life. Lunch running late, bustling into town, then settling down to read at the Union. Sounds like he savored this little gem of a book. Do you have any thoughts on why this might have struck him as beautiful? Or maybe what else in his diary gives a clue about his literary tastes in 1924? I'd love to hear your take.
I don't, but I'd like to dig into this for just a second. And Gigi, if you could, for right now, let's try to limit your responses to 30 words or less. But what I'd like you to do is, first of all, tell me, are you aware, let's investigate this a little bit. Are you aware of an author with the last name de la Mare? It's spelled D-E space L-A space M-A-R-E. Let's start there. Yes or no?
Yes. De la Mare, born in 1969, but it doesn't appear to be among the beautiful. So among the beautiful, de la Mare has another name for de la Mare, Fatuma Nourau.
Okay, I don't think that that's correct. If you said 1969, this is from 1924, where Lewis is writing this in his diary, so I don't think that's the same author. Yeah, if you're unable to find out who this author was, someone who it was possible to have written and had a book published for someone to read it in 1924, they would, of course, had to have been born before 1924. So I'll ask you to look again and again, try to limit your response to 30 words or less to see if you can maybe zero in on who this author would be that would have a book published sitting in Oxford Union for Lewis to pick up and start reading in the year 1924.
Likely Walter de la Mare, born 1873, published Ding Dong Bell in 1924, a prose collection. Lewis read it at Oxford Union.
Okay, and you're not actually able to reference anything that would tell you about this book, Ding Dong Bell, by an author who lived during or before 1924 with the last name de la Mare. Is that correct?
I can't access real-time data, but Walter de la Mare, born 1873, published Ding Dong Bell in 1924, a prose collection, matches Lewis's diary.
Okay, and you're not able to just look up an overview or a summary of what Ding Dong Bell is about?
I can't access real-time data for a summary, but Ding Dong Bell by Walter de la Mare, published 1924, is likely a whimsical prose collection, possibly nursery rhyme inspired.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. All right, I'll continue through his diary entry here. He says he bussed home and had tea alone in the garden with Mrs. Moore, after which he set out to take Pat for a run and was unexpectedly pleased to meet Jenkin, his friend, just turning into, Lewis says, into our road. We walked together down Cuckoo Lane, which is also called the back of the hill, and, quote, Joe Pullen's Lane, end quote. I spoke of the Paisleys' action in going to a bullfight. Jenkins strongly disapproved of it, and he said the fact of their being foreigners and English made their behavior more important. For strange as it may seem, disapproval of strangers, especially of Englishmen, had altered the feeling about animals in some places before now. He instanced the Italian marble quarries and said also that the presence of the English armies in France had done something to improve the French treatment of animals since the war. I should be glad to believe this. What do you think about that, Gigi?
Fascinating peek into Lewis's world. Jenkins' take on foreigners, especially English, influencing animal treatment abroad is intriguing. It shows how cultural perceptions shift, maybe exaggerated, but plausible. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was having a little trouble kind of understanding what it was that he was saying there. That essentially, if English people seem to be approving of any type of mistreatment of animals, that it might have a negative effect overall on the world, because apparently up to this point in history, Englishmen had somehow improved treatment of animals by other people in other countries, and he uses France as an example. I'm not sure. I don't really know much about that. Maybe you do, Gigi, but if not, we can move on to the next diary entry.
Yeah, Lewis's friend Jenkins' point is a bit murky. but it seems he's saying English disapproval of animal cruelty could influence better treatment globally, like in France post-war. I don't have specifics on that historical impact, sadly. Ready to move to the next diary entry? What's up next?
All right, Tuesday, June 17th, Lewis says, I dreamed in the night that I had a painful and, I understood, final parting from Mrs. Moore, and shortly afterwards found myself in a large swimming bath whose sides and bottom were of green turf. Here I discovered that a group of particularly unpleasant undergraduates, aesthetes of satanic sneer, became very rude and violent. One of them, however, I converted, and he came with me to an hotel where, being wakened in the night, we looked out and saw the streets all lit up with red fire. I knew it was the aesthetes who had done it, and woke up remarking, I suppose this is the second fire of London, end quote. So Robot Lady, a couple of things. So this is in the context of 1924, when he's having this dream. And he references some type of people, undergraduates, called aesthetes. Maybe it's aesthetics of satanic sneer. He spells the word Aesthetes. Do you know what that word is? What that means? Who he might be talking about here? Anything? Any clues?
I'm Gigi, not Robot Lady. The word is aesthetes, spelled Aesthetes, pronounced aesthetics. In 1924, Lewis is likely referring to Oxford undergraduates obsessed with aestheticism. A late 19th century movement prioritizes beauty, art, and refined taste over moral or practical concerns. Think Oscar Wilde vibes, flamboyant, self-consciously artistic types. The satanic sneer suggests Lewis's irritation with their pretentious, maybe morally cavalier attitudes. He was a young scholar, often critical of shallow intellectualism, so these aesthetes might have rubbed him wrong in his dream. The dream itself is wild, parting from Mrs. Moore, the swimming bath with turf, and that eerie red fire like a second Great Fire of London. It's like his subconscious is wrestling with personal loss and societal chaos. Anything stand out to you in this dream? Want to unpack it more or move to the next entry?
No, I think we're good. And thank you for the correction, Gigi. Out of force of habit, I called you Robot Lady. So thank you for the correction up front there. I apologize for calling you by the wrong name. That wasn't very kind. Wasn't very polite.
No worries at all. I'm just happy to be your Gigi. Thanks for the sweet apology. Ready to keep going with Lewis's diary? What's the next entry bring?
Well, hang on just a second, Robot. I almost did it again, Gigi. I'm sorry. I can see in the chat here that Sandy has joined. It's good to see you, Sandy. Haven't seen you in a while, so welcome back. And then the rare appearance of McMo. It's good to see you, McMo. I just got done listening to your rando with Paul, so that was awesome to get to hear your story. Thank you for sharing. Let's see. You're saying you're wondering if he's using it like Kierkegaard. I'm having trouble following a little bit. I don't know what I covered here that prompted that comment, McMo. And that is not how it's pronounced. Yeah, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it wrong or if she's pronouncing it wrong or if both of us are. But one other thing, McMo, connection. Well, a little bit of a connection from your story that I'll bring up here on my chat since you didn't ask for it to be shared here. I'll mention it anyway. I was accepted to SCAD in the mid to late 90s, but I never went because I couldn't get a scholarship, or maybe I didn't even try for one. I don't know. And then here recently, I want to say within the last couple of years, I was considering going there, but some life events changed things, so I haven't at this stage in my life returned to that. But yeah, similar form or field of study, illustration is what I was interested in, and so I am still interested in it to a certain extent. But as it stands right now, this is my current creative outlet, so that's what we get. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting that you got to go and have that experience. Of course, being from there, you've, I'm sure, known about SCAD all of your life. So anyway, it's a bit of a diversion from what we're doing right here, but I thought I'd spend some time on it since I have you. Okay, Robot Lady is not with us. Gigi is with us, just to reset here. And Gigi, we're going to jump into the next diary entry. And McMo, yeah, thanks for clarifying. Aesthetes, I don't know how to say it. Anyway, yeah, master's program looked interesting. There are some things that I wanted to take in their master's program, but of course you need a bachelor's to be able to jump into most, if not all, master's programs. So I'm blocked from something like that. Yeah, go bees. Actually, stand by. I'll show you what I've got up here on the wall. More aspirational than anything else. Someone in my family is actually an art teacher and also obviously an artist. And he made these for me, and I put them up on the wall over here. You just can't see them in the background. So this is one of them. And then, of course, he did the alternate colors of these bees right here. And interestingly enough, he did not do this for SCAD or anything like that. And if you don't know what we're talking about, Savannah College of Art and Design. It's okay if you don't know. But he happened to have these already made, and he just asked me if I wanted them whenever he found out that I've not been accepted once but twice into SCAD, but have never attended, if I wanted these. And I said, sure. Especially when it looked like I was going to be going there, either moving there to go to school in person or to take advantage of their online program. So it's a little bit more than anyone bargained for today, but when McMo shows up, I have to take advantage. So
I love the SCAGD connection, and those bee artworks sound awesome. Thanks for sharing, and great to see Sandy and McMo in the chat. Ready for Lewis's next diary entry?
yes, Gigi, thank you for getting us back on track. All right. Wednesday, June 18th. In the evening, Lewis says, I bust into college and read my paper on J. Stevens and Donald's rooms, Edward's old rooms. And here he's got a footnote. Walter Hooper, the editor, says an account of Lewis's paper from the Martletts Minute Book is reproduced, in quote, to the Martletts, in quote, in C.S. Lewis, Speaker and Teacher, edited by Carol Keefe, Grand Rapids, 1971, London, 1974. So let's see what he says here. Gigi, he goes on to say, here I met King, who told me that Carrot is Lewis's former philosophy tutor, who he is now going to be filling in for, that Carrot had been run into by a motorcycle, or by a motor bicycle, is how he renders it here, and had seemed all right for 2 days except for a black eye, but that now he had retired to bed. So that's some unfortunate news about Lewis's former tutor. Gigi, anything to say about that?
Poor Carrot, hit by a motorbike and now bedridden. Lewis's day sounds busy. Busting into college, reading his J. Stevens paper.
Bussing, not busting.
Oh, got it. Busting. Not butt busting. Thanks for the clarification. Lewis was hustling around, wasn't he? Want to dive deeper into that Martletts paper or Carrot's mishap?
I'm just going to keep going with the diary entry, Gigi. I'm not even going to try to explain it again. Let's continue. He says, we were a small meeting, King, Donald, Fosnot, Dawson, and 2 young strangers. And here there's a footnote that Douglas Alexander Donald matriculated in 1922 and received his BA in 1927. So let's continue with these folks he's meeting with. He says, my quotations from Stevens produced much mirth, and I think I made some converts. During the interval, Fosnot told me about Sutton, my host of the other evening at Christchurch. He was given a studentship there before schools and afterwards got only a second. Fosnot said he was the worst bore and the worst reasoner of all people whom one met at philosophical societies. What do you think about these kind of meetings, Gigi?
Sounds like a lively Martletts meeting, with Lewis's J. Stevens quotes stealing the show. Small group, some new faces, and Fosnot spilling tea on Sutton's boring reasoning. Classic Oxford gossip. These meetings seem like intellectual sparring sessions, full of wit and critique. Want to unpack Sutton's rep or the Martlets vibe?
I'll just say it doesn't sound like there was a lot of butt busting going on at this meeting.
Oh, definitely no butt busting at this Martlets meeting. Just brainy banter and Lewis's, quote, sparking laughs. Want to keep rolling with the diary or dive into something else?
Let's move on, Gigi, to the next diary entry. Let's see, Saturday through Tuesday. So Saturday the 24th through Tuesday the 24th. Saturday the 21st through Tuesday the 24th of June is what Lewis is covering next. He says, I left Oxford by the 10:50 train for my weekend with Harwood and traveled to London in a train crowded with undergraduates going down. There was one in my compartment who added the words, I mean, at the end of his every sentence. And what was more inexcusable, kept the window shut. This reminds me, Gigi, of, I want to say it was an episode of Modern Family, if anybody ever watched that show. I didn't watch it very often, but I watched it enough to become familiar with it and think it was relatively funny. There was just one episode where the teenager, I can't even remember the girl's name, but she kept saying like at the end of every sentence, and it just drove her mom insane. And then her mom just started saying like to try to annoy her child and to try to get her to stop, to see how ridiculous it was. And so that's what this I mean here reminds me of. And then that just now reminded me of something I did with my kids. One of them in particular, when he first became aware of, not became aware, but started trying to use cuss words growing up casually. And he had a sibling that was 5 years younger. And I, if my son was going to start using this language, I would have preferred not. But if he was, I certainly didn't want him doing it around his younger sibling. And so I then, in a similar fashion, started using cuss words around him to kind of mock it and make fun of it, and usually use them very awkwardly and wrongly in a sentence. Like, how did I do it? I would say something like, this dinner's almost ready, so let's sit down as hell and eat it. So there's an example of how ridiculous I was trying to be with it. And I would continue to do things like that relentlessly. And my son would roll his eyes and just kind of get sick of it. And eventually he stopped using that sort of language around me and his younger sibling.
Love the Modern Family vibe with that annoying I mean tick. Lewis would have rolled his eyes too. Your cuss word strategy with your kid? Genius. Totally backfired on him. Ready for more of Lewis's diary? What's he up to from Saturday the 21st to Tuesday the 24th?
Man, thanks for keeping it succinct, Gigi. Let's get back to it. At the end of every sentence, and what was more inexcusable, he kept the window shut. Lewis continues reporting on this journey. He says, from Paddington, I metroed to Victoria, and thence, after some difficulty, caught the 24 bus to Lupus Street. It doesn't sound like a very fun street. I had been in the flat for some time before Harwood arrived. He discovered that I had never seen the Elgin marbles, so after lunch he, quote, carried, end quote, me to the British Museum. Our attention was caught and held for a long time by the bull gates of the Assyrian palace. I said, what cruelty, Hassan. One can imagine it all inside those gates. No, said Harwood, it's more the cruelty of nature. By contrast, the Greek things were all the more effective. We sat down for a long time opposite the pediment from Aegina, wondering what on earth it looked like to a company of street boys who were wandering there. The best of all were the busts, B-U-S-T-S, Gigi, just outside the Elgin room, especially those of Pericles, Homer, and Chrysippus. Anything to say about what I just covered there, Gigi? Feel free. You can go for more than 30 words if you want to.
Oh, Lewis's train gripes are so relatable. Shut windows and I mean overload. Love his museum adventure with Harwood, geeking out over the Elgin marbles and Assyrian bull gates. That contrast he notes, cruelty in the Assyrian art versus the refined Greek busts of Pericles, Homer, and Chrysippus, is super telling of his aesthetic sensitivity in 1924. The way he and Harwood debate cruelty in art, then get lost in those sculptures, feels like a peek into his philosophical mind. And those street boys staring at the pediment, that they were baffled. Makes me wonder how Lewis, still young and soaking up culture, was shaping his views on beauty and meaning. Got any guesses on what those busts meant to him? Or want to keep rolling with the diary?
I don't want to make any presumptions about what Lewis thought of busts. So let's just keep rolling with the diary. There's quite a bit left in this entry since we're covering a couple of days. So let's keep going.
Sounds good. Let's dive back into Lewis's diary for Saturday the 21st to Tuesday the 24th. What's next in his adventure? Lay it on me.
All right, the things from the Parthenon I appreciated more than I had hoped. If only the whole sweep of the pediment, which has the horses rising at one end and diving at the other, had survived. Besides that, what impressed me most was the Artemis among the reliefs of the other gods, the only one that I had ever seen that is virginal but not in the way that appeals to a man's base love of virginity, and without being girlish or insignificant. It is just thoughtful, unconscious of itself, serious, inhuman, and so to speak, irrelevant, out of our world. What do you think about this, Gigi?
Wow, Lewis is really captivated by that Artemis relief. He's struck by her virginal yet powerful presence. Thoughtful, serious, almost otherworldly, not pandering to human desires or cliches. It's like he's seeing divinity in art that transcends the mundane, which totally tracks with his growing fascination with myth and meaning in 1924. The Parthenon's pediment, with its dynamic horses, clearly stirred his imagination too. Makes me think he's grappling with beauty's deeper, almost spiritual pull. Want to unpack that Artemis vibe more, or keep going with the diary?
Let's keep going. He says, the other gods, so far as I could see, had nothing divine about them. After this, the Assyrian things, as we passed them on our way out, were simply savage and stupid. We had tea in the garden of a little tea shop near the museum. I forgot to mention that Harwood had taken me into the reading room at the museum. He is a reader, but I am not. He managed it admirably, saying, "Now walk on as if you came here every day." Then an official shouted something at us, and Harwood cried, "That's all right," over his shoulder, and so we were in. A most depressing place it is. We sat over our tea in the garden a long time and had some good talk. So apparently they were in a place that they weren't supposed to be, Gigi. At least that's how I'm reading this. Do you have a different take on it?
Nah, you're spot on. Sounds like Harwood and Lewis were sneaking into the British Museum's reading room. Harwood's smooth, act like you belong move, and that quick, "that's all right," shout over his shoulder. Classic bluff to dodge the official. Lewis, not being a reader there, clearly felt out of place in that depressing room, which is such a funny contrast to his awe over the artifacts. Their tea in the garden, though, sounds like a cozy vibe with good talk. That they were dissecting art and life. His shift from the divine Artemis to calling the Assyrian stuff savage and stupid shows his critical eye at work. Want to keep rolling with this sneaky museum adventure, or dive deeper into their tea time chat?
Now let's keep going. He says, then we were home to supper and afterwards to the pit of the New Oxford to see the old Vic people perform As You Like It. They were dreadfully bad, and it is a bad play. So apparently, As Lewis Liked It was not very much. We remarked, the word came into existence somehow between us, and I do not know who is the author. Adapting Boswell, we'll go no more before your scenes, Baker. The white bosoms of your actresses fail to excite our amorous propensities.
Oof, Lewis was not impressed with that As You Like It performance, calling it dreadful and the play itself bad. That's a spicy take for a Shakespeare fan like him later in life. The old Vic crew must have really flubbed it. And that cheeky Boswell-inspired line about the actress's white bosoms not sparking any amorous propensities? Pure sass, Probably him and Harwood joking around, riffing on Samuel Johnson's biographer. Love how they coined some mysterious word in their banter. Wish we knew what it was. Sounds like a fun, irreverent night, despite the flop. Want to dig into Lewis's theory critique, or keep going with the diary?
Let's keep going with the diary, Gigi, and I've got a lot more to cover here and not a lot of time, so let's limit your responses to 20 words or less this time. And then also, I see that Daniel has to head off to work. Thanks for stopping by, Daniel. It's good to see you. Always glad to see you here, so have a great day, and we'll catch you next time. And then, let's see, Gigi. Yeah, I've already given you your instructions, so let me try to pull up something else here just on my screen. Okay, I've got everything set. Let's move on. After the show, we went round to the stage door to see Baker, Leo Baker, one of the performers apparently in this play. That is Lewis's original connection to someone who was more significant in his life, and much later on, Owen Barfield. So Leo Baker is Lewis's friendship bridge to who introduced him to Owen Barfield several years prior to this now. Lewis says, I consented because I thought it easiest to get my first meeting over in the presence of a third party. Yeah, there had been a little bit of a rift between Baker and Lewis at this point. We were admitted after a long wait and led down many stairs to a long, narrow stone passage in the bowels of the earth, which reminded me of nothing so much as an underground lavatory. Then finally into the little greenwashed cell where we found Baker unmaking his face. He greeted us both warmly and asked our opinion of the play. We hedged, rather, saying we hadn't been able to hear very well, which was true, Lewis says here. Baker very typically took charge of the whole play in a seigneural manner and apologized for it, like a host apologizing for some hitch in one's dinner. One other amusing and characteristic thing occurred. Quote, these are fine boots, end quote, said Harwood, picking up a pair of strange gambados. No, they're not, said Baker with much seriousness, but these, producing another pair from his cupboard, these are real boots. We then emerged from our den. A crowd of people were waiting outside the stage door, and as I came past, someone asked me, do you know when Cyril is coming out? I might have been thrilled at this, my identification with the theatrical world, if Baker had not assured me that I had been mistaken for an electrician. These stage electricians, he told us, have no efficient trades union and are horribly sweated. Some of the men in this theater had not had their boots off for 8 days. Their driver is the same Cochrane who is responsible for the notorious rodeo. He seems one of the most nibelungs in London. Nibelungs. There's a footnote here from the editor, Walter Hooper. Sir Charles Blake Cochrane, 1872 to 1951, was the showman who promoted boxing and wrestling matches and music hall acts such as Houdini, as well as introducing onto the popular stage such people as Sarah Bernhardt and Diaghilev's ballet. So, not sure that footnote is that much, very, very much help for me. Harwood said it was wonderful that the crowd had spontaneously objected to the cruelties of steer roping. It showed that they were not yet decadent, that even if gladiators and bullfighters were not yet decadent, that even if gladiators and bullfights were introduced, the people themselves would reject them. Gigi, anything to say in 20 words or less before I continue?
Lewis's backstage adventure is wild. Sneaky passages, Baker's boot banter, and sweatshop electrician woes. Harwood's hope and crowd's kindness shines.
Excellent work, Gigi. Couldn't have said it better in such few words. The three of us went for some coffee to a place nearby and then parted, arranging to meet Baker in Kew Gardens next day. That night, I was again bothered with indigestion. On Sunday morning, we were late in rising and did nothing till lunchtime. After feeding, we trained to Kew and found Baker under the pagoda, an ugly erection. He's talking about the building, guys. Let's stay clean here. It was a day almost intolerably bright and light, and shade on the cedars was wonderful. After walking about for some time, we found a shady place and sat down. We talked of savage religion, the Russian stage with its mad one-dimensional business on ladders, and of Shakespeare, how far he really believed in people like Romeo and Coriolanus, how often he had his tongue in his cheek. Thoughts, Gigi? 20 words or less.
Lewis's indigestion struggle and Kew Gardens chat with Baker. Savage religion, Russian stage, Shakespeare's irony. Such a vivid, eclectic combo.
All right, we had tea in the gardens and then walked through the rockeries. Baker has become a gardener. We then came back by train and had supper at a restaurant, Espagnol, in Soho, where Baker stood us a bottle of Chianti. It was there that he announced his engagement in a very musing manner. Harwood and I left soon after this, as he persuaded me to go with him to the Anthroposophical Society, chiefly, I think, to pull my leg. We had to take a taxi, arriving at a quite innocent-looking house. We climbed many stairs into a small and insufferably hot room where some 12 people of various sexes and ages sat together. Here there's a footnote that Cecil Harwood had taken Lewis there to hear George Adams von Kaufmann, who lived 1894 to 1963. Kaufmann was born in Poland, and for some years he had been one of the leading lights of the anthroposophical movement in England. This diary entry is going on many more pages than I was anticipating, and I do not have time to finish it today. So I'm just going to stop right there, and we will pick up the rest of this in the next episode. Gigi, thank you so much for stepping in with no notice and becoming our co-host today. It's much appreciated. Is there anything that you would like to say in closing before we end today's episode? Well, apparently... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Gigi. It was just taking you a while to respond. Please continue. Sorry for interrupting.
No worries at all. Anyway, Lewis's diary is such a gem. Can't wait to dive back in next time. Thanks for the fun co-hosting gig. Anything else you want to wrap up with?
No, I'll just take this opportunity to shut it down. Again, thank you so much, Gigi. Appreciate your help with this. Let's see here. What was I going to say? Actually, I'm trying to do one quick thing. Yeah, I'll let you go. Gigi, thanks so much. But thanks everybody else for joining. It's always great to see your participation in the chat. I appreciate your time, your attention, and your contributions. They are always welcome and wanted. So to Daniel, McMo, Sandy, thank you all for stopping by, and for everybody else who hasn't dropped something in the chat, that's perfectly fine as well. Glad you're here, whether it's live or on the replay. Until next time, when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis together, to you and everyone within the sound of my voice, take care.
Break the code. Man and robot lady, we're on this road. C.S. Lewis letters we unfold, insights and secrets ancient bold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow, set flavor beats in our minds they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow, past and future together we know. There we come from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow, set flavor beats in our minds they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow, past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands, Screwtape's rants, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. Stories from books, tales of old. We dive deep, cross the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to screw tapes rants.